Good morning. I'm Jim Check with Kelowna Now. Welcome to the really big show. And we do actually have a really big show today. And Ian Burns on the phone from Ottawa joining me on the really big show. Lots to get into today. So we're going to start off real quick here. Premiers to meet with Trudeau Wednesday about trade tariffs, says Ford. There's a lot of Daniel Smith's in the U.S. doing a lot of that work already.
Yeah, she's been chatting with a lot of people, hasn't she? I find it interesting, though, that this meeting is going to take place virtually. It doesn't seem to be really appropriate given the seriousness of the issue. I thought they would meet in person.
Well, there you go. Canada Post strike affecting medicine supplies now. And that's from the Assembly of First Nations. Definitely a lot of people really starting to feel the pains of that Canada Post strike. Because a lot of people rely on Canada Post, especially in smaller rural communities.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the anger is now being directed towards the strikers, and that's that's usually quite bad, isn't it? When you're for a union to attract negative energy like that is usually a bad sign, isn't it?
I think people are getting frustrated, right? And especially around Christmas time when they do rely on Canada Post a lot, right? So I think, they need to find some type of resolution because it's just going to get worse,
And
right?
it's even, it's spilling over into the lives of people that never use Canada Post. So it's kind of like even those sort of uninvolved people, those neutrals, are now, they also have a reason to be upset.
Canada won't join European countries in suspending Syrian asylum claims. No surprise there. It always seems to. Immigration Minister Mark Miller said officials will keep processing asylum claims made by Syrians after the country's dictator was toppled this month. Some really troubling posts out there on the internet, just horrible. So I would be careful if you're looking at any of those things where they're actually, I would just be careful if you click on things.
Yeah, it's very gruesome. They've set fire to the dictator Bashar al-Assad, who's fled to Russia. His father was in charge of Syria before him, and he had a tomb in I guess it was Damascus or somewhere. Anyway, somewhere in Syria, and they've set fire to his tomb and they're like celebrating that. I mean, it's very sort of 17th century.
And Israel went in there and just Israel, along with Turkey and the United States, went in there and just basically took out all their military, like all their equipment from
like the more sophisticated stuff they have,
from
like
jets
missiles
to
and chemical
helicopters
weapons and things.
and sunk their navy as well. Basically,
yeah, they did. Yeah. No, they didn't have much of a navy, but what they did
whatever
have
they
is
had,
now at the bottom of the Mediterranean.
Whatever they had, they took out.
Yep, they don't mess around, the Israelis, to be honest.
This nonsense thing keeps going, people just kind of keep it alive because I guess it drives some tweets. Poll finds 13% of Canadians, 21% of Tories would join the USA. I mean, it's just a nonsensical thing. Nobody's joined the United States, and they probably wouldn't even take us anyway. So, but I guess it sells some clicks, right? So,
I think there's always been, when you read Canadian histories, there's always been a certain element within the country that has looked to the US. But I mean, I don't think it's ever been smaller than it is now, really.
The only one they would take was Alberta, I think. They'd probably say, no, you can keep the rest.
Saskatchewan is a real gem, I think, in terms of its resources.
Well, maybe the two of them. And maybe British Columbia, too, if they could, make some changes here. But I don't think the United States is any rush to take over Canada. So I don't know. The people that are giving this air are just looking to stir up nonsense, right? And it's nonsense. Ignore it. It'll go away on its own. As soon as you stop giving it air, it'll just peter out. This is the big news of the day, though. Bank of Canada drops interest rates by 0.5 point, and that's because the economy is in a spiral, and jobs and everything, right? And they're saying that Trudeau's GST holiday might temporarily lower inflation, but it really will have no effect at all. But the immigration numbers, reduced immigration numbers, may bring inflation down, and no surprise there too, because obviously bringing in a bunch of people and stressing housing and stressing healthcare obviously leads to inflation, right? It's just basic supply and demand stuff. But so here's some interesting things. There's some tweets put out there. The Liberal Party obviously put out a piece just like the Bank of Canada announced its 5th consecutive rate. That's more work ahead, but we're building a strong economy that works for Canadians. And then Pascal Saint-Onge, good news, interest rates have dropped again to 3.25. Our economic plan is focused squarely on fairness, and every generation it's working. But the reality is, it's this no clearer message than the central bank can send that Canada's economy is entirely negative. And unemployment 6.8, highest in 8 years. GDP per capita down 6 straight quarters. Canadian dollar at 4.5-year low. We're in a recession, says a former Bank of Canada governor. And again, Liberal MPs gaslighting Canadians like it's their plan to lower interest rates. When I just interviewed Sean Fraser, and he said that they don't have anything to do with interest rates. And but they sure jump in front of it when it looks like it's good news for Canadians, right? The interest rate needs to come down. They've choked off the money supply here in Canada so badly, jacked up rates 19-fold, unprecedented. And now, they're trying to take credit for it coming down. They should take credit for the economy in the what's that word? Not good. I could say some other words, but not good.
But you're forgetting that all the bad stuff is caused by global headwinds,
Global headwinds, and
unavoidable
obviously Pierre Poilievre
international
is
conditions.
to blame for most of it, I imagine, right? Because every time,
Oh yeah, Poilievre's done a lot of that.
Every time the Liberals pass a bill or something like that, like even this GST holiday thing, because it's just them and the NDP passing it, because the Conservatives really have no, but they're quick to highlight that the Conservatives voted against it, right? That they're trying to stop them, which they have no ability to do, because if they were trying to stop them, they would stop them and force a vote of non-confidence. Another tweet by a Liberal MP, just 4 days until the GST holiday, where Canadians, to save all Canadians, read that carefully, save all Canadians up to $260 on every $2,000 spent. Where are you planning on saving your money? And then he gets called out on it, and then he says, oh, yeah, well, maybe this is just in Ontario, and they're just playing games with the numbers. But he says all Canadians up to $260, depending on, that means if you went out and just bought, Christmas trees. Yeah. And then
if you bought a couple of 100 bottles of whiskey, you'd probably save about that much.
That'll be good for your health, for sure. And then the food professor puts out that the GST holiday is still not approved by the Senate, and it looks like it's in its 3rd reading, and they're saying it's nonsensical. And then this out by Holly Dolan from Blacklocks. She's saying the GST holiday will save a typical Canadian $4.51. And that's the National Finance Committee is told. Senators endorsed the measure while commenting it appeared pointless. We think we all understand it is a political measure. So there you go. You get a crisp $5 bill. But like I said, the Liberal MP putting out there that all Canadians can save up to $260 on every $2,000 spent. Do the math on that. That's definitely not going to work in Canada. I mean, in British Columbia and Alberta. Because you know what I mean? That's considering the Ontario HST tax, right? I guess everybody lives in Ontario.
Well, and there's also the possibility that those that the provinces that are actually going to get the full deal, like the Atlantic provinces and Ontario, that they're then going to bill the government. They're then going to bill the federal government for what they've lost out on.
I did an interview yesterday with a Kamloops toy store. She said she has 26,000 SKUs. And not all toys are going to be tax-free, GST-free. It's just GST-free. She said, so they have to go through there and manually change all the SKUs for this 2 months. And she said it's such a big job. And then she's expecting that it'll be a big job for the auditors to make sure that they did it right when they file their GST returns. And she said it could add anywhere from $500 to $2,000 just for the GST return difference. And plus, it could cause a lot of tension at the till. You can watch that interview. It'll be on Kelowna Now later today. But she's saying it seems like a a lot of work for small business with very little benefit for the consumer. Because like the average toy that people buy is around $50. So that's a savings of $2.50 for that average toy that's purchased. There you go. I think we should have a Danielle Smith corner on this show, because here we go again. She posted something showing how much Alberta contributes to Canada's GDP. Canada has the third largest oil reserves in the world. You wouldn't know that, right? 87% of Canadians believe oil and natural gases are important to Canada's economic future. There's a few that don't, though, right?
Yeah. Quite powerful people.
Yeah. So we need some changes. Again, Danielle Smith putting this out there. Lots of good information on here for sure, right? Alberta definitely leading the way in so many different ways in this last little while here.
I mean, I'm just looking at this chart that she put there. The key is the one in the top left, isn't it? Global oil demand. I mean, everybody acknowledges that there's this enormous oil demand, and that is, as we, sit here now, there's no alternative to that, really. You can't just electrify, like places like Indonesia and Nigeria and stuff like that. They're going to need oil. It's that's the all-important statistic, I think.
Danielle Smith in the United States right now, talking to everybody she can about, how we get prosperity going for Alberta. He's got an Alberta first mission, but I mean, that benefits Canada in itself. The question is, where's everybody else, right? Instead, we can talk about it in a bit here. Our leader is poking the bear. Rustad says he expects defiance in BC Conservative ranks amid Roe over core values, and he welcomes it. So there you go.
Well, yeah, he said that, didn't he? He said that when he was, when back in the day when he used to speak to us. Yeah. He said that he was going to allow for like a kind of open symposium style culture within his party, and then proceeded to it's claimed that he proceeded to then tell lots of his candidates not to speak to the media. So interesting.
We shall see, I guess. And this is now more tough spots for retailers. Central Okanagan shoplifting enforcement blitz sees over 45 people arrested. So the sad thing is these are a blitz, but these retailers are putting up with so much, like this GST thing now, like shoplifting in the Christmas season, all kinds of stuff that they have to put up with. And that was between December 2nd and 7th. That's what they caught. So you can see how much, like this is probably adding to the cost of many of the stores, and they have to put that out there, right? All these people were released after they were charged. Some of them weren't charged either. But there you go. Air Canada trying out that they bought the first batch of oil, and not oil, but alternative fuel. It's made from canola oil and tallow. And for those that don't know what tallow is like fat from, beef and pork and all that stuff, right? So
that's what, what's his name? RFK. That's how he likes to cook his food, isn't it?
Yeah. So fuel retailer Parkland Corp said it successfully produced 100,000 liters of the fuel in Burnaby with canola oil and tallow. Tallow, again, is that fat from sheep, cattle, and other things. And then obviously canola, everybody knows what canola is. And then, and then why is it better? It says fuel made from canola oil and tallow have smaller carbon footprint over their life cycle compared to petroleum fuels. Plants use canola oil to absorb CO2. So they're kind of playing some numbers here for sure, right? So.
Yeah, but I mean, does it though? Does it really reduce CO2? And the more important question, is it good for the environment? Because obviously an oil well, which would produce the fuel that you would use usually, that takes up a lot less space than
isn't oil
a field of canola, doesn't it?
Isn't oil just dinosaur tallow? I don't know.
I guess so.
Apparently, no.
But I just find it, I find it interesting because it's like with nuclear, for example, as well. Like a nuclear power plant, very very small, really, in the grand scheme, isn't it? It's just one like it's like a few acres, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then you compare that to like I don't know, like 50 square miles of solar panels or something like that. There's a big debate there to be had, isn't there, about how you use land.
Yep. Nationally, I guess some good news here. National rent prices decline year over year to a 15-month low. And that's a new report saying that rents fell nationally. I guess, if they keep going up so high, they reaches a point where it's going to start to fall off. But then again, by lowering immigration, we'll lower demand, which will lower rents. Like, who would have thought? Like, equations work like that. Who would have
Yeah.
thought that's how math works, right? Who would have thought? We got a little tweet here to play for you where Justin Trudeau, I think, stepping into it here by saying that the United States election, well, I'll let you hear his own words.
No, it shouldn't be that way. It wasn't supposed to be that way. We were supposed to be on a steady, if difficult sometimes, march towards progress. And yet, just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president. Everywhere, women's rights and women's progress is under attack, overtly and subtly. But I want you to know that I am, and always will be, a proud feminist. You will always have an ally in me and in my government.
So listening to that, well, we got some feedback there. Listening to that, my first thought is, if you want to show leadership there, step down and allow Danielle Smith to take your spot. If you want to show how you're supporting women, because she's probably one of the strongest female leaders here in Canada by a large margin and deserves that job way more than he does. So show us by example, Mr. Trudeau. What do you think?
Oh, Chrystia Freeland, I think he would be, if he had to pick a woman, be more inclined to choose her.
Yeah, but I'm just showing Danielle Smith shows leadership. If you had to pick a female leader in Canada, like I don't think there's any comparison to what she's doing in it and has done.
Some would argue that she also has her detractors, of course.
Yeah, well, there you go.
There was also in this at this event, there's also another comment that's been kind of drowned out by Trudeau, which is Jagmeet Singh saying that there are too many old white men that, in his words, fail upwards. Yeah. Which is an astonishing remark, I must say, especially as it came at the same time that Geoffrey Hinton, who would, I assume, describe himself as white, he certainly is old, as he is awarded the Nobel Prize. I mean, did he fail upwards? I just don't get it. Like in any other country, any other media, I feel like a comment as obnoxious as that would be scrutinized by the media, at least some elements of the media. But it seems to have just gone under the radar, that you could literally make remarks like that. So it's essentially a conspiracy theory that there's some kind of secret white supremacy network that enables old white men to succeed. I mean, astonishing remark.
And then the thing is, here we are trying to negotiate with the new Trump administration, and he basically picks up a stick and tries to jam it in his eye and saying that he only won that election because of misogyny.
Yeah, totally. And interesting that hasn't even been said by, the leading Democrats. They haven't even made that claim.
Ridiculous. Let's move on to markets. The gold, again, it broke over that $2,700 mark, and it looks like it wants to trend higher here to finish off the year. So will it break its 2,800? Right now, it looks like it wants to go. It's going to get quiet here in a little while here, and maybe some of the moves will be more exaggerated as some traders start to move off to the sidelines for the Christmas holidays. But gold looking pretty good here. And again, that is being reinforced by Chinese back in the market buying and also the geopolitical instability in the world that's going on right now. And then our friend Bitcoin. over that $100,000 mark again. There, 3 times lucky. Will it hold that mark? It will eventually, I believe, but right now it's challenging that 100,000, and you know, 3 times it knocked on the door. Will it hold? And then again, as we move into the end of the year here, some people are saying, like, the United States again is the TINA. There's no other alternative. A lot of money flowing into the United States of America. We'll talk about that in a bit here too. Canadian dollar, we've seen that half-point cut. A lot of that was probably factored in. Everybody kind of knew that that was coming. So that the dollar still flirting with the 70-cent mark here. But I mean, if you look at that chart, if you're a trader, it doesn't look good. I'll slide over here a bit, but it does not look. That chart is not your friend. And typically, if you're a chartist, you draw some lines there, and that trend is down. Not a good trend. And then this is what I was just talking about. Donald Trump put out on his Truth Social. Actually, this is on X. Any person or company investing $1 billion or more, if we can find that next slide, $1 billion or more in the United States of America, nope, not that one. The United States will receive fully expedited approvals and permits, including, but in no way limited to, the environmental approvals. Get ready to rock. So what you can hear in Canada is a giant sucking sound as capital leaves Canada. And this is the technology sector is going to love this, right? Anybody that's in there that says that they're going to like fast track investments, and in the United States, like, they're truly entering into a golden age, and hopefully we get some leadership here in Canada instead of trying to stick sticks in the eye, and that we can benefit from that golden age and not be on the bad end of that stick. They do need us. There's no doubt about it. They need our resources. Danielle Smith has made that point clear. She did an interview just the other day saying they need our oil. They need what they need from Canada is our natural resources. So we need some policy set up so that we can bring some of those to the table.
Yeah, I think spare a thought for the Europeans who don't really have anything that the Americans want, except some would argue overpriced cars and white goods and so on.
Canada is definitely one of the richest resource nations in the world. We just showed you a chart earlier, third in oil and gas reserves, mining is huge for us. Lithium, cobalt, nickel, zinc. I could go on, gold, silver, like some big gold mine just opened up in Ontario, the Cote mine. So they need all that stuff. And
fertilizer as well, and uranium.
So Justin Trudeau says we're going to charge a tariff on ketchup because they don't want to talk about our resource sector. They don't want to talk about our resource sector. Ketchup, seriously? Harley Davidson?
They did that last time, didn't they? And he seems to think that was a great success.
Do you think the Americans are down there saying like, oh my God, we're not going to get any ketchup? What'll we do? Yeah, exactly.
What would they do?
They're probably rolling around making memes about it. Anyway, in the market still, SpaceX continuing to lead, and that's one of those technology companies. Like, this thing is just, if you don't know much about SpaceX, I advise you to go on X and just click through some of the stuff what SpaceX is doing. Truly incredible. The largest global communications company in the world too now, with Starlink, which is part of it. And we talked about it earlier. There is an ETF that you can invest in SpaceX now. It's called XOVR. Astro Holdings is SpaceX, is where their holdings of SpaceX are. I think they got in at 185 on their tranche of SpaceX, and then SpaceX was just revalued at $385 on their next financing they did. So there was some people saying that SpaceX would go public, but it seems to be doing well fundraising in the private equity markets. So there's probably not a lot of reasons for it to go public because they're accessing enough funds in the private equity market. And then in the last thing in markets, Tesla broke a new high, an all-time high today. And again, Tesla being recognized as more than an automobile company. Tesla being recognized as a AI company, and with Robotaxi and Optimus. A lot more videos on Optimus coming out there. We showed you some of them as well. And then again, in our AI section here, Google coming out with some amazing news. Well, it's yet to be seen if it shows up for reality, because Google sometimes jumps the gun a bit. But they say they've created a quantum computing chip that can even crack Bitcoin code, which makes Bitcoin vulnerable. So that would be dangerous. But it says what makes it so special is that it boasts 105 qubits in a set new industry standards for error correction. Supposedly, it performed a computation in 5 minutes that would take the fastest supercomputers 10 septillion years, far exceeding the age of the universe. And it solved a 30-year challenge in quantum error correction. Wow.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? No more wait times.
Yeah, it's so much for like secure Bitcoin. I don't know. I mean, that's one of the claims. But again, it's claims, right? So there you go.
Well, apparently a lot of big companies have been trying to like protect their their servers from quantum attacks that they theorize could break through any sort of barriers that are currently in place.
We're in a brave new world. GM throws in the towel on Robotaxi. They said they're going to refocus their energy somewhere else, but they say that the Robotaxi environment is too competitive. There is two major competitors out there, Elon Musk with Tesla and Robotaxi, which is yet to get approval to be out there in public. But Waymo is out there, which is a Google product, and it is operating in a couple cities in the United States. And Cruise was kind of like a competitor to Waymo, and basically they're throwing in the towel. So it's too expensive, and they don't see a path to success.
Well, let's hope that doesn't mean that we're going to have to wait longer to have these very cool vehicles.
And then I don't know if you got this meme, Rommel. Did you get it? Yeah, if you pull that other thing off there. So apparently, this is somebody saying that instead of the United States or Canada joining the United States, we take these states in there. Again, who would want them?
Well, that's funny. I find this meme, if you want to call it a meme, this joke or whatever, I find it quite funny because the states that have been included, if you look, it's like New York, Oregon, California, and so on. These are the states where the people tend to say that they're going to move to Canada whenever like a Republican wins an election, and then they never do. And I just find it hilarious because they would never join Canada either, would they? They obviously they love America and they sort of need America, but they also need to complain about it a lot, and I just find that quite amusing.
There's a reason that most of the migrants go to America, because it still is the place where most people want to be. Believe it or not.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think they take in absolute terms the largest number, don't they, of migrants.
We've got a new segment that we're going to try and do every day here. We got a good news segment. And I did interview a local doctor here that gives the gift of laughter. And we got a couple books to give away too. So he wrote a book. He wrote this joke book here. Jokes you love to tell. It's Dr. David Goldberg. He's been a doctor here in Kelowna for 28 plus years. And this is available in the KGH bookstore. It's also available at Mosaic, and it's also available in Indigo in British Columbia stores. So a great gift. And we've got 3 to give away. So if you make some comments on our X or YouTube or whatever, and we've got 3 of these books to give away, make a great stocking stuffer. Again, it's supporting local, and it's a great book. We've got a little clip. He tells one of his jokes here. Play just a small clip of a joke. It's a bit long, but it's funny.
It takes place at the finals of the World.
You're getting out of the way there.
One of the biggest sporting events in
One of the biggest in the world.
Yeah. So a man wanders his way down towards the seat just before the game starts, and he's got a fantastic seat right beside the pit. And sits down. He's pretty excited about watching the game, and he notices the seat beside him is empty. It seemed really odd this close to game time, such a major event. So he leans across the empty seat and asks the next man if he knows who's supposed to be sitting in the seat. And the older man kind of has a bit of a sad look on his face, and he says, yeah, that's actually my seat. And the man asked him, well, somebody coming to sit here? And he said, no, it's going to remain empty. Well, it's totally brought. How could you let such a good seat go empty? This is the finals of the World Cup. This is like the hottest commodity in the sporting world. And you're going to let the seat go empty? And the older man kind of looks at him sadly and says, well, I've been to every World Cup for like the last 25 years. And every time I've been to the World Cup, it's been with my wife. We've gone together. He says, but she died. And he just looks downcast. And the man now, of course, quite contrite, feeling that it's been hard on him, saying, why are you having a seat? He says, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. But he thinks about it for a moment. He says, but still, I mean, this is a wonderful seat. You couldn't have found a family member or a friend or even a neighbor come and watch the game with you. And he says, oh, no, we're all.
There you go. There you go. A little bit of humor again. We've got 3 of these books to give away. If you want to comment, we'll select 3 winners of this great local doctor that has made this book. He tells those jokes. You can watch the full interview too on Corner Now. He tells those jokes when they're in surgery and that, so that like when they're waiting for stuff to set, like doing. He says when they're doing some cementing stuff and that, so they have a little bit of time there just to wait. And so it kind of breaks the tension by doing that. And we also have our own book here too, Ian and I've done. It's a mission planner. We're going to be giving that away to get the website up so that you can set your 2025 to be a successful year. Anything else you want to add, Ian? We're at the 31-minute mark, just a minute over. So.
No, I think let's keep to this new punctual arrangement that we have.
There you go. And we thank you for watching Kelowna Now.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.